Hello and welcome to another episode of Shakedown. With me as always, my comrade, my compadre, and my right honourable colleague, the one that they call Lenny. How are you doing? Good. So it doesn't matter how you're doing, sir, because there are a gazillion F1 centric that it's which we need to pull. Have you been watching any testing, Lenny? Have you watched anything? What do you make of it, chap? Are you intrigued? Are you geared up for a 2026 season that's going to be the greatest F1 season that we've ever seen, or now?
Even Cameron, you can't say that with confidence. The greatest. That's a bit far fetched. That one, Cameron. We're about a minute in, and you've annoyed me already. You're quite good at this, Cameron. But good to be back on here. Viewers are probably looking at he's in a different location, but little makeshift situation here in Lenny Milton Keynes. Talking to Max Verstappen, he's around the corner here at Silverstone, getting some intel maybe for 2026. It's looking good.
Max Verstappen would never lower his standards by talking to you, Lenny. Do you know what I mean? He would never. He would never do such a thing, mate.
Yeah, completely agree.
Oh, yeah, listen, talk to me about testing, mate, because I'm worried.
Yes.
The title of this video is that F1 has a big problem, mate, and I feel like F1. How many holes can a pail of water have in it before it's no longer a pail and just a hole? I'm scared, Lenny, for a couple of different reasons. The first of which is that Mercedes just look like the most dominant team. Oh my God, they look like 1988 McLaren out here. I'm not sure whether anybody's going to take a right. And again, this is speculation and conjecture because, of course, it's testing or a shakedown or whatever they're calling it. And you can't read too much into times. You don't know the program, you don't know the fuel, nor do we know the tyres and blah, blah, blah. But hearing George Russell say today that thus far, notwithstanding their timesheet topping laps, that now they're going to go and focus. Thus far, they've been focused on the program, getting in as many laps as possible. Tomorrow, however, that's when we're going to see the hot laps. I'm like, for crying out loud, Lenny. That means that
it begs the question, Cameron, isn't it? Is it game over already before it's even started? And what we've seen already, Cameron, from preseason testing, day 1, day 2, day 3, and we kind of knew this, sort of heading into this sort of situation here in Barcelona, that Mercedes seems strong and they're showing it on the track. And for George, as you mentioned, to say that they're not even shown the hot laps already, that is frightening. That is absolutely frightening. And for me, the season's over already. I'm looking at I'm looking at race 6 already, and it can't go quick enough. I want to see a bit of competitiveness. Come on.
Oh, you think they're going to go on then? This is where we're going to have a sticking point, mate. Are you still backing this this loser that the FIA need to intervene as soon as race 6?
I am, and to be honest, Cameron, I had a little bit of thought. I even rewatched our last stream together, and everyone was outraged. And I looked at it and I think, you know what? You have a point. You really do have a point. I understand where you come from. If that happened in, one of my favorite sports in MMA, where they came in and they said, you know what? For example, Ilya Taporia, you can only use your left hand in this fight. I'd be like, what the crap? What is this crap? And you can't fix this. Exactly. It is not how this works. But I want to see competitiveness to keep me engaged in this sport of F1. And it begs the question, right? We've been mentioning it all the whole time. F1 is a sport, it's content, it's entertainment. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. The way to get content is through entertainment. How F1 going to survive through 2026 if Mercedes are 10 seconds down the road, Cameron? It doesn't make sense for their business model. And unfortunately, F1 is a business, whether you like it or not. They're looking to utilize this and make as much profit as they can throughout 2026.
You know what, Lenny? The problem is still, granted, the demographic is evolving by the second as far as eyes and attention dollars on F1. 40% of those in 2026 are, as of January, they've come into F1 by dint of Drive to Survive. Brand new fans, right? But 60% therefore are diehards, purists. You got to keep them engaged, chap. If you keep tinkering around with this, if Mercedes have been genius and they have leveraged some very cheeky compression ratio shenanigans, then allow them to be an F1 team, right? You can't. Listen, Lenny, I can't engage this.
Cameron, what's the age demographic of this 60% though?
It doesn't matter. Older.
Are they on their way out?
Oh, behave yourself, mate. Behave yourself. It doesn't matter though, Lenny. You can't. They can't. I don't think they can intervene. It's too
No,
soon, and it's too artificial, and it's too contrived, and it's too much circus and not enough circuit. It's out of order, chap. They can't.
yeah,
I get you. I get you. I'm kind of
yeah.
half beating from the same drum, mate. To be honest, but they're just nah, no.
And I understand your points, and I think it's very. It would be a travesty, obviously. Like you mentioned there, that 60% of diehard fans are still watching, the sport of F1, and for you lot to kind of see this happen, it all play out. You're going to think, what am I watching? Is this the same F1 I tuned into when I first watched the first race back in wherever it was, or whenever when you started watching F1? But as I mentioned on previous podcasts with yourself, Karen, times are changing. Sports are evolving. F1 evolving. Generation are evolving. And then, Cameron, that begs the question that I've got for you. I always have a question for you. You load up TikTok, Cameron. In journalistic world, when you're writing, Cameron, there's a thing called gap or a hook. You're always looking for a hook at the start of your article to pull the readers in. If that article at the hook at the start is not good enough, would you continue reading?
No, chap, but it's not. This isn't bloody. We're not writing Bleak House here, Lenny. You know what I mean, chap? This isn't. That this is sport. Ultimately, the bottom line is this, chap. When we talk about F1, this is sport, fella. A meritocracy has to be the lion's share of it. You can't just. It's too. No, chap, it can't be a participation sport. You can't get rewarded for being stupid in F1. It's not. No, Lenny, it can't. I understand. I get it, and I'm leaning into more. I don't want to see a boring season. This can't be like. I don't want it to be 1992 and Mansell running away. I don't want it to be that type of thing again, or Prost in 90. I don't want it to be one or two drivers just dominating. Nobody wants that. There will be downstream ramifications for Formula One and its ability to weaponize and increase its asset value, if indeed it is that. But, chap, can you imagine if you're Mercedes out here? And I tell you what the worst joke is, Lenny. I think if FIA have a word with Mercedes and they're like, you know what, chaps, can you rein your net back? Go on then, here's my conspiracy theory already, Lenny. If what George Russell said after day 3 of testing is anything that you can be invested in, I think Mercedes are already sandbagging, just like Red Bull did in 22-23. I think they're realising that they can't afford the gap to show the true gap, which by some accounts is said to be anywhere between half a second and a second. I think already they're going to wind their durable competitive advantage next back in and sandbag with a view to make sure that the FIA chill out, pretend as if it's a competitive championship when their engine mode is like on 6 or whatever. I think that's what we're looking at, chap. I genuinely, my spidey senses are genuinely telling me that Mercedes could potentially be that dominant.
Yeah, and I agree. I think what Mercedes have done already thus far, and we haven't even started the season. They're miles ahead of anyone on the competition on the grid. And I like what he's saying there, sandbagging. Maybe that's the play for Mercedes. And if I'm looking at that, and I might actually clap that, Cameron, that's probably the most sensitive talks on a podcast that I've had with you. Yeah. That's actually, I really like that because Mercedes sandbag. FIA won't notice it. Well, they might notice it, but they won't notice that they're sandbagging. They're not showing the true potential. Therefore, they can have the whip hand. Maybe after race 6, we'll be like, okay, it's time to put the pedal down a little bit more. Maybe, like what you said there, turn the engine up from 6 to 10, and then maybe they're 5 seconds down the road. It's a wrap. But maybe sandbagging is potentially what Mercedes are doing.
100%, mate.
If this is their sandbagging camp, what does their hot laps look like?
Problems. Well,
that's the conversation we've got to be having.
If you do that, and again, there are massive assumptions that I'm making here and provisos et al. However, if you look at when George was like half a second slower than Isaac Hadjar, I want to say yesterday, and he did his lap on C1 tyres. We know that Isaac Hadjar was on the very least. I don't think Red Bull have any C1s. So they're very least on C2 or C3, both of which are much quicker, vastly quicker than the C1s, meaning therefore, if you normalise for the tyre delta, that George has anywhere between 0.5 and point eight some. So I just think that fills me with woe and dread, mate. I'm telling you, for the
Absolutely.
competitiveness of the season, to be honest.
Okay. The question that I beg to differ is, if it plays out essentially how you want it to play out, okay, the future of Formula One, right, in terms of, do you think the future is in this hands of 2026? Obviously, we know it's a huge new season, 50-50, smaller cars. There's a lot going into it. There's a lot to play. There's a lot on the table that we don't know, that even the racers, the teams don't know. There's a lot of questions heading into this one. If Formula One go into this season and completely flop it by potentially letting Mercedes run out and it be a 200-point gap there, way ahead, there's nothing to play for by whatever race, do you think the viewership and the Formula One will drastically decrease the following season?
Lenny, this is the bloody question that we're having, mate. Like, I listen. I think the viewership, F1 viewership, is at all-time highs. Like, record attendances. There were like 4 or 5 different races last year over the course of the weekend that saw more than 400,000 attendees. Incredible. Like, this is a bonkers time for F1 for sure. But mate, listen, put in a couple 2000 to 2004 seasons where, do you know what I mean? You know the outcome, the winner before the race has even started. Then bet your bottom dollar that these guys and girls, this younger Gen Z like demographic, are gonna start doom scrolling TikTok on their phone. Don't get it 100,000% if the race is boring. If George Russell wins like 24 or 24, you know what I mean? When it was Max, it's a little bit different. I don't know. I think Max had like there was, I don't know. The 2022 season was super dominant, but there was something. I think Max leveraged the wave of 2021, right? There's something about Max at the moment, because I think most people consider him the best on the grid by a gazillion miles. There is, the thesis is that a rising Max tide floats all F1 and motorsport boats. You've seen the NLS are bending over backwards and changing like their bloody calendar to make sure Max can get onto the 24 hours of Nürburgring. So I think Max felt a bit different. But if you've got George, as big a star as George is, he's no Max and he's no Lewis. Yeah. Like he doesn't have that cachet nor that charisma. So if it's George and Kimi fighting all season long, it's a 6 out of 10, mate, at best. And that will have people turning off their TVs, mate. Sadly. And
Cameron, do you think that's in the back of the mind of the FIA? They're looking at potentially 100%. Of a season of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, and as mentioned there, obviously no disrespect, but completely, not even in a talking point of a Max Verstappen and a Lewis Hamilton in terms of what they bring to the table for the FIA and the Formula One as a sport. Do you think the FIA and Formula One are looking at this and thinking, we probably can't afford to see George Russell or Kimi Antonelli just run away with it?
Yeah, 100%, Lenny. But then we get back to the same bloody thing, don't we? Like, what are you doing? Is this a business or is this a sport? No, chap, it's not. Okay, look, let me see that and raise you this. If it is a business, then it shouldn't be. It should be a sport at core with sprinkles of like monetization and business. There is a sliding rule here, Lenny. Like, and you can't. I feel like, as there were gazillion F1 aficionados and purists, I feel like, as of the time of writing, F1's the sliding rule is a tad too much circus and not enough circuit. The conversation we'll keep having it, chat. And the worst thing is, if it's not competitive, that they will dial that up even more. Forget F1, it will be WWE in the Attitude Era, where they'll be showing more of the girlfriends and the wags and doing all this stuff. Now, you need some of that, but the argument goes something like this, Lenny, that it's too much. It's a little bit too much, and to the detriment of Formula One. When F1's at its best, it's competitive, chat, but bloody, you know what I mean? It's a sport with an S, less circus, more circuit. Mate, let me ask you this though, Lenny. I've got a question for you, chap. There's been a lot of chat. Go on. You go first.
I was going to come back at you, but before you come to me, I'll get straight back to you, Cameron. I don't know whether you've heard of these things, but in life, right, there's things that are called lies. And telling you what you want to hear, right? That it is essentially. Maybe your family or friends have told you some of these things that you just want to hear, just to make you feel okay. And that's what the hierarchy, the people at the top of the FIA or the Formula One are telling viewers. Unfortunately, I don't think they're being transparent with viewers or the diehard MMA fans. Diehard Formula One fans. That unfortunately it is a sport, but at the top of the hierarchy, do you really think they're worrying about how competitive it is? They want to they want to get profit. That's all they care about. It is a business for them. And if, say for instance, if I'm a shareholder and I'm looking to invest in Cameron CC, for example, I don't care how you're doing. I just want to make the most profit and get in and get out. That's the situation as a shareholder. Unfortunately, every single business in the world is they want to get as much money as they can, and because it's the way it is. Like WWE, for example, it is what it is, Cameron. And Formula One, they're telling you lies. That's what it is. It is a sport, but at the end of the day, the top hierarchy, it is a business. They're thinking of more ways to market this sport to create more money for themselves. They're probably being greedy at the top, and that's what you don't know.
How bloody sad is that? That's the scourge of not just F1, but the bloody earth and sports across the board, right? Stephen says that Drive to Survive can turn paint drying into action, and that's a wrap. Well, maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe that's what they need to do this year. I don't know, Chad.
Scrap the season. Just get Netflix in. Drive to Survive. There we go.
But bloody, you blasphemous, Lenny. What are we doing here? Let me ask you about this, chap. Because a lot's been made about not necessarily a levelling of the competitive landscape, but a potential change of the rules early on into this season. So we're talking about compression ratios, right? And that Mercedes power unit. I mean, every time I look at the timesheet, I see a Mercedes power unit has done the most laps and or done the quickest time. It feels like Mercedes are going to be super dominant, and potentially as soon as race 6 that they might even change the rules. What are we doing, Glenny? Can you imagine? I mean, bloody, it just feels, I don't know, I'm worried, and it feels really, really wrong, chap. It concerns me.
I understand where you're coming from, and as from your perspective, it is wrong. It is wrong for a sport. How you view it, like you view Formula One as a sport, but how they're viewing it, like I've just mentioned, they're viewing this sport as a business. They want it to be as close as possible to generate more viewing figures. That's what it is at the end of the day, Cameron. They want more eyes, or the most eyes as possible as they can get onto this season in 2026, because they know deep down 2026, with all the rules and regulations that we have thrown about and no one knows what's happening, it's a risk. It's a massive risk, and they could lose a lot of money next year. And this, unfortunately, at the end of the day, this is what they need to do. And if that's what they do, is what they do, it is wrong. Like what you mentioned, it is wrong, and I completely agree with that. But in the eyes of how the competitiveness, I think I would do it if I was the FIA.
Blasphemy.
I'm sorry, Cameron.
Cameron. No, mate, it's blasphemous. Just realise that the extent of the blasphemy that you're espousing. Retro Man says Lenny's right. I disagree, Retro Man.
That's probably my only person that's agreed with me on this channel, Cameron. But he's talking a bit of sense there.
No, Lenny. What you're saying is that your characterization of where we are in 2026 is absolutely correct. That's how Mohammed Ben Salom would speak. That's how Stefano Domenicali would speak. You're echoing their sentiments, sir. But my point to you is that's wrong. No, it's dangerous for the long-term prospects of F1 as a sport. And anybody that tells me that it's content, full stop, new paragraph, is having an absolute giraffe. They're missing the point. They're disrespecting the length and breadth of F1's 75, now 76-year history. It's out of order. It's not done. And it's a very dangerous place. Let me ask you about this, Lenny, because there's a couple of other things that I want to touch on, Chap.
Of course.
Look, as far as going into 2026, how do you feel broadly about the season, the championship? Are you excited going in? Do you want? Can you? Nearly 40 days, less than 40 days probably, till we get ourselves a cheeky FP1 at Australia. Given testing, given they close the doors and you can't even see cars on track, how are you? Rate your levels of excitement 1 to 10, chap.
Cameron, that was a fantastic rhetorical question that you've just done there. That was good. I enjoyed that.
0. Unexcited.
No, I'm joking. So from what we've seen, I'd probably about 2. I am looking forward to seeing George Russell at the top of the grid. Don't get me wrong, but I want to see a fight. I want to see a fight between Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, anybody that could provide a fight to him. Even the Aston Martins, Fernando Alonso. I know by the bookmakers he's put up there. His name's up there for a shout at this World Championships. But I want to see 2-3 teams at least battling this championship out, going in the last few races of the season. That's what I want to see. So my excitement right now and the way it's looking, and from what we've seen thus far at preseason, Barcelona, with the potential of Mercedes just running away with it, my excitement is at 2 out of 10. And Cameron, I would like to get that question back over to you. How was your excitement knowing that Max Verstappen, the driver that you follow and want to win, basically, potentially could not have a sniff this season in terms of World Championships? How excited are you?
I'm intrigued more than excited. If I'm being precise with language, Lenny, that's where my sentiment is. I kind of want to. There are more questions than answers, right? I want to know what Aston Martin have got planned. Adrian, who is bloody transporting an AMR 26 in for testing tomorrow. And like what are we doing, Adrian? I know Adrian is a lastminute.com jockey sometimes, and he wants to leverage every single millisecond into designing a god tier innovative machine for the 2026 rules and regs. I get that, but I'm keen to see, can he do it again? Like, has he dropped the ball? Like, I'm keen to. I just want to see the bloody car tomorrow. That's exciting. Of course, I'm keen to see how Max fares. I'm keen to see whether Red Bull, Ford, PU have nailed it, or whether they've dropped the ball as well. I'm keen to see what the Honda power unit looks like in the Aston Martin. Is it, as per the rumour, bloody overweight and underpowered? Like, I'm keen to see sustainable food. I'm keen to see whether the electric component of all these 22 cars on the grid blows up. I'm keen to see whether Cadillac can do as they've promised and be more than just a viral sensation in F1 and a competitive. Like, I'm keen, mate. I am keen to see, but intrigue more than like excitement. Do you know what I mean? There's too many unknowns at this juncture of the season, and I tell you what, here's where I am, Lenny. This is what's going to leverage at you. Look, I am tired for the longest time, Lenny. Like I felt like an outsider to F1. I felt like F1 quite deliberately has kept me and other F1 fans at arm's length. Do you know what I mean? Privatise the profits, socialise the losses, just like the banks did in 2008. I don't want to. If I'm not a paying customer, F1 feels like it makes me feel like I'm not welcome. And again, extend that into 2026. Open the bloody doors and let us see some testing. Per Ed Straw over at We Are the Race, they've been talking. This has been their mantra, their central tenet over the past 3 or 4 years, that we want to get fans closer. We want to broaden out the access. We want this to be your sport as much as it is ours. And then they go and do private testing. Tell me that you're a hypocrite without telling me that you're a hypocrite. Now, as you're just dialing back into the sport, Lenny, how do you feel about there being a test that's private, brand new rules and regs, 2026, 50-50, and what do? The first time that the cars are on track, we get like we get drip fed bits and bobs of content as and when they please and choose. There are bloody journos, accredited ones, circling around the outside of the track, just trying to get like bloody trying to get. What are we doing, Lenny? Talk to me about this, chap, and tell me why I'm being sensitive potentially.
No, you're not, Cameron. I think maybe this is one of the only things that I might agree with you on. Private testing is ludicrous, right? Because as you mentioned, for fans of this sport, not being able to view the potential of what could happen, because realistically, Cameron, we don't know what's going to happen until Australia. The first race of the season, it's all murmurs, whispers. We could have a look at maybe potentially. We could see what could happen, but we don't really know until what happens in Australia. That's the big involvement here. But as you mentioned, private testing, not fans being able to go in there. I've been talking about how F1's a business and they've not allowed fans into. They could have put the tickets 50%, or they could have put cheap tickets in there. They would have made a lot of money, because I feel like as you mentioned as well, the intrigue of seeing what happens this season would have been massive. It's new. It's like I don't want to say it feels like a new sport, but with all these rules and regulation, it might be. It just sounds like, Formula One are trying to revamp everything that they've made and created and change it into a different style. But for a preseason testing at Barcelona to not be able to be viewed, and all we get is poxy YouTube videos and highlights on the Formula One channel. What is going on here, Cameron? And and I agree with you that one. And I don't think you're being sensitive, and I think you're being right. I think you have the right to be angry, be upset, because, like I mentioned, I think die-hard fans like yourself and potential people that are watching this have earned the right to watch at Barcelona, because you put your hard-earned money in watching Sky Sports F1 or Sky Sports Darts in December, whenever it is. So you put your hard-earned money to watch that in preseason testing in Barcelona. So for them to not put it available, and all we get is YouTube videos of Ted Kravitz talking about it, it's ludicrous. I don't like it.
I think it's cheeky. And you know what peeved me off even worse, cheeky. Lenny? It is cheeky, isn't it? And disrespectful and disingenuous, misrepresentative of this upper echelon motorsport formula in the bloody world. Do you know what I mean? Like, open up the gates and let us see, for Pete's sake. Yeah, maybe there might be a couple cars on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Ford found on road dead or whatever. Like, of course there's going to be reliability and issues, but if this is content as Liam Parker states, then let us see it. The meta is to stream 24/7. You see what these guys and girls are doing now, so let us see what's on. Let me ask you this though, Lenny, because this is where it gets a bit. This is
techie,
mate. This is where it gets a bit techie. I wanted to run you through some trues or falses as far as like predictions going into this season, mate. What do you reckon? And I put this by Shez and Baxley last episode. These are important ones, chap. And again, we'll revisit them in 12 months' time. I want you to tell me, chap, what do you think? Prediction time. Biggest story going into 2026. What do you reckon, mate?
Biggest story going into 2026. FIA dropping the ball.
1,000%, chap. Is that even a big story there? Christian Horner?
I think it'll be a big story because of how they've dropped the ball. Massively, how they've dropped the ball.
Things you want to see in 2026?
Things. Racing.
Mate, standard. Bold prediction, 26.
Bold prediction, 26. Oh, this is a good one. That's a good one. That's a tough one.
I got you on the spot.
I've had a few. I had a few in my head. That's a tough one. I was going to go for Toto Wolff stepping down.
Oh my!
As principal.
How very dare! Can you imagine? Wow! Just as they start winning, that's very bloody bold. Go on then. True or false? Lewis Hamilton ends the season as a Ferrari driver and does not retire.
False.
You think he retires before the end of the season?
I think there's something else that would happen before that. I don't think he retires. I think he's in Formula One next year, but not for Ferrari.
Oh my God! You think what are you saying, Glennie? This is blasphemy completely. What did I say to Lewis Hamilton? I'm not sure.
I don't think Ferrari take another year of risk with Lewis Hamilton in that car.
I don't think Lewis takes another risk with Ferrari in that team.
Same point.
But through different lenses.
Yes, exactly.
Christian Horner returns to the grid in 2026 as team principal and owner of Alpine. True or false?
True. And from what we've been seeing in reports, I believe that it's coming in.
It is coming. Maximilian Verstappen fails to win a race in 2026.
Oh, that's false. Yeah, Max Verstappen is one of the greatest that we've seen in the Formula One car. He would definitely not I feel like he's going to put himself in that position. There will not be a race next season where he will not put himself in that position to win a race. There will be one race, whether it's Monaco or Azerbaijan, he'll be there.
Go on, let me pitch you this though, mate. Like I think if like you said earlier, if Max has a sniff of it, you bet your bottom dollar he's going to take 25 points. But supposing his car isn't sufficiently quick to give him a sniff. Again, one of the oldest truisms in F1 history is that new doesn't win. And that Red Bull Ford power unit collaboration is brand spanking new. You've seen the bloody technical director coming out and saying, initially we were only meant to be involved on the ICE portion, but since we've been involved on the electric, blah, blah, blah. And then Chris Harris goes to the factory, Milton Keynes, not far away from where you are now, and says, nah, this is a nominal collaboration only, that Red Bull have been doing all the heavy lifting. I'm not sure, chap. Genuinely, I'm not sure about this Red Bull Ford. I know they've got compression ratios, not to the same extent as Mercedes, but I am... with my Max Verstappen cap, I'm ever so slightly concerned. I don't know, chap. If you give him a sniff, if he's got the wheels underneath him, then he'll nail more than it. I mean, he'll be a contender, right? If not, or soon to be 5-time champion. But if Red Bull have dropped the ball, especially given the fact that Lauren Mecky's decided to focus only on 2025 in 2025, and all the likes of like bloody Mercedes and Aston Martin and McLaren, by dint of their dominance, have been focused on 2026 for at the very least 6 months. Red Bull have had only a couple of months to design a car proper, and that concerns me, chap. Nothing to do with Max Verstappen's not insubstantial talent behind the wheel, but I'm concerned.
If Max Verstappen has a bad season next season, it's not because of him. Like what you mentioned there, it's because of Red Bull. And like you mentioned, I'm only a few miles away from Silverstone and being able to, and obviously the Red Bull factory here in Milton Keynes as well. So maybe I'll have a little sneak in there and see what they're working on with Max Verstappen. But I tell you, probably something, it will not be good.
Have a word, mate. Again, as aforementioned though, Lenny would have lowered his standards to be. Can you, mate, soon though, imminently, Lenny on Cameron CC interviewed Max Verstappen. Make it happen. Chat. Speaking of Max Verstappen is a Red Bull driver at the end of this year, start of 2027. True or false?
False. In terms of, I feel, unlike what we mentioned in there, Red Bull, I think letting him down. I think Red Bull let him down next year, and I think they don't deliver what they. I don't think they will promise him a car, but I just don't think the car would be up to scratch of Max Verstappen's standards. So I see this potentially, or probably will be, the last season that we see Max Verstappen at Red Bull.
How sad is that, mate?
It is sad, because when you picture Max Verstappen, I feel like it's just Red Bull, isn't it? It's just Red Bull.
That's the point.
And I'm interested to see where he goes from here. Is it Mercedes? Who can afford the big bucks of the Dutchman?
Mercedes, fella, that's it.
Mercedes, yeah.
I mean, there's a couple. Aston Martin will throw the bag at him,
of course.
But whether he'll want to go there is
a different story. It's a project, I feel like, Aston Martin. It might take a few years to develop.
We'll find out more tomorrow. If Adrian Newey does the Adrian Newey thing and last airbends, do you know what I mean? Then Houston, we could have a problem, and Max will end up there. But if, as is the rumour, Mercedes power unit and Mercedes F1 team have the whip hand, then it's going to get techier than techie things. So, John, you're a legend. Thumbs up button is helpful. Imagine getting awesome free content. And as thanks for appreciating the channel, you can give it a like in real time. That would have some awesome tech. You're a legend. So, John, I appreciate you ad infinitum. Let me ask you about this then. Go on then.
Yep.
Isaac Hadjar beats Max Verstappen in the World Drivers' Championship. True or false?
False.
Correct. That's correct.
That's what the Cameron, have you ever watched the 1% Club?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that was a 100% question.
You joker. The one that anyone can get. Go on then. Kimi Antonelli beats George Russell in the championship. True or false?
False. George, I feel like he's a superior driver, quicker in that Mercedes. If we're looking at the lineup on the grid, I would go in terms of ability. Max Verstappen for me is first, obviously, and then it's George Russell.
changed your tune, you Max Verstappen hater. What's come over
no,
you, mate? Go and take your medicine.
This is crazy because obviously I've hated on Max Verstappen, but I've never discredited the talent that Max Verstappen has.
True. You're a proper F1 fan in that sense that you can you don't need to love
I understand
the personality.
talent. I understand it.
You don't need to love the personality, but to dislike the talent of the man is a completely different thing. Go on then. Oscar Piastri to Red Bull in 2027. True or false?
To Red Bull. So I said Max Verstappen to leave Red Bull. So I'm going to go with true because obviously Max leaves Red Bull to go Mercedes, and then Oscar obviously off to Red Bull to replace him. And I feel like that will only come from McLaren letting him down this year as well. In terms of being up the shoes of Lando Norris and not leaving Oscar over there and leaving him in the dust in the corner to watch.
Mate, did you know? I only just found this out the other day, but under the aegis of all the Lando Norris favouritism talk and papaya rules and bloody Australia, call it off, and Singapore, that was just fair racing from Zach Brown. Did you know that McLaren, when they were struggling financially, had as a financial sponsor one Adam Norris, father of Lando, to the tune of circa 80 million Great British pounds, apparently. Did you know this?
I didn't know. Does that then speak volumes of why McLaren love Lando Norris so much?
We're not business affiliates, me. No.
Quadrant? I've never heard of them.
I did not know this, mate. I wish that I'd known this last season when we were having the papaya rules conversation and whether it's true or fair. There's another couple in here that I want to ask you. True or false?
Yeah.
Go on then. This is the techier than techie things one. Max Verstappen partners Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes next year.
Yeah.
True or false?
Oh.
See what I've done there, Lenny? You thought that was a slam dunk, but you missed the influence.
I missed the Kimi Antonelli a bit. And if I'm going to back up on my words that I've said here in a few podcasts ago, I believe Kimi Antonelli is the one that gets left to dry. I think it's George Russell, Max Verstappen next year.
Go on, let's double click on this then, chap. If you are Max Verstappen and you have your pick of the litter, can you not, as a proviso, you being good friends with Kimi Antonelli, say to Toto, listen, I will sign on this dotted line under one condition. Kimi's my mate, keep him, get rid of George as a champion potentially, as did Williams, Damon Hill in 1996. Do you think Max Verstappen might say that? So then what does Toto do? You think Toto says, no, you know what, Max? No, we can't enter into this. I've pursued you for the last 3 years, flirted with you outside of the relationship. But you know what? This is a step too far. We've got George as a champion. We're going to keep him, and you can go and sign with Aston Martin. You think Toto Wolff is even capable of saying those words?
Max Verstappen. If I was Toto Wolff, I would have said, do you want to win a championship or do you not want to win a championship? Mercedes are going to provide the car to George Russell to win that championship, and that's the proof of the pudding that what they've done. Kimi Antonelli, unfortunately, he's young, not as good as experienced driver as George Russell, so that's why, therefore, I feel like they keep him around. And obviously, as you mentioned there, George Russell potentially win the championship next season. I'm not writing out Kimi Antonelli. He could win it. He could win it as well, and they could keep Kimi and George. But George is obviously the massive favourite. George wins it. They can't get rid of the guy that's just won the championship. Can they?
Let me clarify the question here, Lenny, because this is a pinch point. We're going to play this tape back in 12 months and realise how wrong you were. This is the question that I'm asking you, chap. Yeah. You're telling me that Toto Wolff will not drop kick in the chest George Russell if it means that he can get a whiff of the signature of Max Verstappen. That's what you're telling me on here as of the 28th of the first 2026. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm saying. But what Toto do is it's a completely different thing.
Blasphemy.
It's if he as you mentioned, if he has a sniff of getting Max Verstappen, George Russell is gone. But what I want to see happen is I want to see Who doesn't want to see happen?
100%, mate. That would be blockbuster. If you're talking about a rising tide floats all F1 boats, then mandate that Max and George, Mercedes, same team, 2027, inject it into my veins now. Like I would do a lot of things for that. Like I'd love to see it because it's reminiscent of 88 and McLaren, Senna, Prost, and then Vettel and Webber. It'd be gangbusters for F1.
And realistically, that's the best outcome for the FIA, is it not?
100% best outcome for everybody, chap. Liberty Media, Stefano Dominicali will sell his grandma to get that happen. That would be like everybody would be laughing. 24.5 billion is the market capitalization of F1 on the Nasdaq. I mean, you put 10%, 20% on that straight away. If you have George and Max fighting in the same car in a Mercedes with Toto, well, you cannot write it, Jack.
Dimicoli would drive Max Verstappen to the airport himself.
He would. He absolutely would. He absolutely would. Go on then, mate. As you round third, couple of predictions. Give me your driver of the not champion, but driver of the year, normalised for vehicular advantage or deficit.
Driver of the year. That's what you said, right? Driver of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. But doesn't necessarily have to be the winner.
Well, often he's not. I mean, we wind back to 2025. Max Verstappen was unanimously the driver of the year. But
I think I'll go with Alonso.
What is your rationale, dear sir?
A resurgence of what he could deliver back in the day. Obviously, a former champion. We know how good he is at the wheel, but having the car potentially next season at Aston Martin.
You know what, chap? I've got a thing for Fernando Alonso at the moment. I'm remembering that he's a wily old fox of an F1 peddler, isn't he?
He's had a lot of experience, been there, done
that. He's a wily old fox. He's a bit crafty, this chap, and so I tell you what, mate, if he goes well next year, it's a problem for Colt RH, who all the while have been saying, listen, while Lewis is underperforming, how about you have a chat with Fernando Alonso? Lewis is 41, but Alonso's about 5 years older. Nobody doesn't talk about Alonso. Mate, you think he's better than Lewis?
At this stage, yes.
Oh my gosh, Lenny, why are you doing this? I'm hanging up the phone.
It's enough.
Oh, you know what though? I don't even... Oh, I'm allergic.
Cameron. Lewis Hamilton was 67 points behind Charles Leclerc.
86, mate. Fuck.
86, there you go. And exactly. How many times did he get knocked out of Q1? Or Q3?
All of them, chap.
There we go.
Yeah, go on then. Let me argue. I don't disagree with your sentiment, Lenny, but first, in the first instance, wash out your mouth with soap and put some respect on Sir Lewis Hamilton's name.
I do need a drink, actually.
Please, in the second instance, how very dare you to compare the two? I don't disagree with you, chap. I think Fernando Alonso is drinking something different. But here's the point. You'll never know, chap, because they're working off very different comparators. How very dare you compare what Alonso is doing to Stroll as versus what Lewis Hamilton is getting done to him by Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc and Lance Stroll are in completely different stratospheres. You cannot compare the two of them. So for Alonso to beat Stroll, here's what I would say to you, Lenny, with my Lewis Hamilton cap on. If Alonso reverse them, place Lewis in that Aston Martin alongside Stroll, and Lewis, even at 41 years old, in a ground effect car they've never liked the handling dynamic of, I think he would beat Stroll. Of course he would beat Stroll. And Fernando Alonso would struggle to deal with modern day Jean Alesi, aka Charles Leclerc, who some say is point to point the quickest on the grid. He wouldn't see which way Charles Leclerc went. And therein lies your problem. You've got to normalise for the respective strengths and weaknesses of the driver along whom they're driving, right?
Fair enough. That's a valid point, Cameron. But in terms of prime versus prime, right? Alonso versus...
Wow, we've seen it already, didn't we, Lenny?
Exactly, right?
I've got a good answer for that. Right, and Lewis weren't even in his prime when he beat Fernando Alonso in the same car in 2007. McLaren ended up on the same amount of points, but ultimately on countback. Alonso then was a two-time champion, and Lewis Hamilton was a rookie. Sadly, Lenny, that's an open and shut case, Johnson. In his prime, go on then. If we're talking prime, I think Lewis Hamilton's Lewis was just. Mate, this is why I don't understand why Lewis and Max fans can't get along. Because Max now is so scarily, pant-wettingly quick that how can I not be reminded of Lewis in 07 and 08? There are a gazillion, they're very different people outside the car, but there are a gazillion similarities, like dotted lines that I can draw between the two of them. And sadly for Alonso, Lewis in his prime was so pant-wettingly quick, blitzkrieg fast in a car. Yeah. Alonso just couldn't manage it. Alonso's brilliant and skullduggerous, and
of course,
he'll do it. There's no lengths to which he will not go to get even a millisecond of advantage in a car. But he just didn't have the speed to go toe to toe, wheel to wheel with a prime. I don't. There's not too many drivers in history, Lenny, that could.
Of course, yeah. We're talking prime versus prime, Lewis versus Alonso. Yeah, like you mentioned, Lewis wipes the floor with it. Not even close.
100.
It's so, but in terms of longevity, where we are right now, Cameron, that's a different story, and I don't want to annoy you anymore.
Budge, Lenny, it's chaos. It's a chaos comparison.
In terms of MMA, right?
Go on.
Again, there's a lot of people, a lot of fighters that fall off at different times. There isn't an age, Cameron, where you get to that age, 39, that's it. You know, they're going to fall off completely. They're going to fall off. They're going to fall off completely. No, there's a lot of people that have a lot of longevity, and they fall off at different times in their career. We've seen people fall off fighters at 33, 32, 31, and they've had no success after that. Oh, we've seen people fall off at 45. There's a fighter in the light heavyweight division by the name of Jan Blachowicz, 42, 43, still going at the top level. It works in different ways for different people. That's what I'm trying to say.
Lenny, again, your sentiment is broadly in line with mine, but I don't think that's true. Chap. Let me give you an example. Both in mixed martial arts.
Shoot me. Ready to go.
Martial arts. I will present to you Exhibit A, sir, if I may approach the sand. 36 in MMA is the line. I remember Luke Thomas once upon a time saying that there aren't too many 36-year-olds in MMA at the lighter weights, not light heavy or heavyweight, because they're anomalous, right? It's not speed, but your lighter weights, 36 and older, they do not win championship fights. There's been one or two.
Cameron.
There's been one or two ever in UFC history. Similar. Fast forward to F1 now. 40 years old or older. Guess how many champions? Guess how many champions there's been in F1 history. So remember, Lewis is 41 years old. 3 and they were all like 1966 Jack Brabham. Fangio won his last one in 57, and the only other one was Nino Farina, who won the very first bloody one. 3 champions in F1 history at 41 years or older. Race victories. You're going back to the early 90s. I want to say it was Mansell when his last one in like mid-90s. Like, mate, F1, as with the UFC and mixed martial arts, is a young man's game if past his prime. Now, you will have exceptions that come along and prove the rule. You will. Once in a lifetime, but I'm not sure whether Lewis and Alonso are that. I don't think either one of them would win a championship against a Shaw or a Max or even a Lando and Norris. It's a young man's game. Imagine, Lenny, to put a footnote on this. Imagine I couldn't travel. I mean, I sit here and stream F1 every single weekend, mate, and it takes it out. Like it's taxing. Do you think I could get on a cheeky PJ and fly over to bloody? Like, I didn't even know, like, all around Europe and then go to Kota and then fly the other direction to, like, the mid... Mate, 24 race weekends per year? Are you having a giraffe? Like, no chance. No way. It couldn't happen. And me and Lewis are in and around the same. It's just no chance.
Cameron, you know my best trait, what I think about you is...
Go on.
It's your short memory. I quite like it. I think it's great. Not too long ago, you said that 36. You said, right, is the category to not many world championships. Yeah, Cameron, did you watch on the weekend?
Go on, talk to me. Oh, mate, interim. Don't do it, Lenny. You're having a laugh, chap. Don't do it. Talking proper. This is like, you sound like Lewis Hamilton fans that are like, well, he did win a race. He won the sprint race. No, but
how old was Gaethje?
Mate, I don't care. It wasn't a proper championship. It was an interim. Don't do it, Lenny. Stop doing the tax avoidance sports debate thing. Proper championship, proper Grand Prix, proper drivers' championship. Sprint races don't count. Interims don't count, chap. Nobody cares.
Daniel Cormier.
Okay, so exception that proves the rule. I don't. But again, I said light, heavyweight excluded. Right, we're talking about these all these Lewis Hamilton. I don't even know how much Lewis weighs, but he doesn't weigh that much. He'll be a light chap. The light bods, as soon as they get older, we're talking about reactions and bloody like hand-eye coordination and all this stuff, risk management, fear, all these other things. Get to 40 and your whole perspective. I tell you what, I'll leave you with this on this bombshell, Lenny. Let me tell you this. Brilliant podcast, Undercut podcast again. Damon and bloody Marcuse have stolen the name of this channel originally. That was the first one, and I don't like that. However, substantively, the podcast was brilliant. Damon Hill talks about when he got to that age, when he was coming to the dying embers, rounding third on his career. And he said a couple of different things, chap. He said, in the first instance, you just lose a tenth. You're just not prepared to the whole prism through which you view risk changes when you get to like 36, 37, 38. You've got kids and bloody everything's just a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Like, of course, you father time.
Yeah, yes. Mate, you can't go through maggots and Beckett's at 1,000 miles an hour and not think of anything because you're 40 years old and you just risk management is front and center each and every single time. It just happens as you grow older. And Damon says, listen, he goes, when you see red. Like when there just comes a time when you just got to call it a day. Full stop. New paragraph. Right. You just got to.
Yeah. And I got a sentence for you there for Cameron, just to reply to that situation. Alexander Volkanovski, featherweight champion of the world, would like to have a word.
Go on. What happened to him, chap, recently when a younger, hungrier lion came on the scene, just as Charles has with Lewis? And potentially Max Verstappen next year with Alonso. What happened then, chap? Younger, hungry lions see the older ones out to pasture, chap. That's what happens, fella. Don't tell me about...
is as we talk. Obviously, he's still got to fight this weekend, but he is the current featherweight champion of the world.
The exception that proves the rule, chap. The exception that proves the rule, I'm telling you. And if Ilya was still knocking around, how would that work out for him? This is the problem, chap. Hey. Yeah, anybody can beat cans. Do you know what I mean? When Alonso, that's what I'm saying to you, translating it back to F1. When Alonso's running circles around Lance Stroll, you can't say that means the old. Yeah. You know what I mean? That mean you can teach an old dog. No, put Alonso in the same car as Charles and then talk to me. Let Max go over there in that Aston Martin, and then let's see how Fernando gets on. That will be the true proving ground, but I don't think we'll ever see it.
You would probably have a positive record over Stroll in a qualifying. It would,
probably.
Lawrence is doing a lot of favours to his son there, trying to commit his future.
And they say nepotism doesn't exist in the weird and wacky world of Formula One. TWM says we're talking sports psychology here, where initial choice needs to be made. Do we really think Lewis Hamilton will allow such retirement thoughts to enter his mental space? To leverage Lenny's sport over here, mixed martial arts, the head of the UFC would always say, when you say the "ruh" of retirement, you are already retired. And I think Lewis has been talking. I've heard Lewis made a couple of statements over the past couple of years where he's spoken, not necessarily saying that he wants to retire, but he's spoken about retirement. We know at the end of 2021 there is something that he seriously considered, and if you consider it, then you are already retired. You're already 1 foot out the door. And I just pray that Lewis Hamilton retires from the sport when all is told, and he doesn't let the sport retire him. Lenny, you've been an absolute legend as per usual. That's been Lenny on the right hand side of your screen. As always, I've been your boy Cameron CC, Sir John Perry, a legend of a different calibre. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.